I cleared it up.
That's what you gonna do it.
Pop here, one pop there. I just took a little drill. I just don't see it. You got to understand.
You know, I think ours never shows up first.
That's something new.
Every time you gotta come up to do.
I mean, every time, and I don't get on the phone, but I'm just trying to think, the last time I had.
Something is wrong. I say, but I have always been.
Oh, you know what? Cause I just got, I mean, here, me,
So my mom said, when we're in the load, sixth grade, she said, my kids are gonna go to Benton Harbor.
and
And she goes over to St. Joe over there, you know. And the oldest boy's about to come back to high school.
It'll be all right. Replace it with cash or what?
Just want you to get-
well, Cashew's not on this.
So check sheet mark, so check, all old.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what I do.
okay.
Oh, well. So I wrote, so I was protected.
When I say I had some.
On, people write dirty, it's writing dirty with the son or their daughter or the girlfriend or whatever. If I was over here, yeah, it's the school system, so. Yeah, so mom was pretty smart by doing that.
When I leave here, I'm going home, pretty much clothes, and I'm going to the gym. And after the gym, I'm turning in early tonight. I'm gonna take.
Where, what part? I don't know.
The vinegar's not.
Oh, yeah, that's not the point.
Well,
Because you're in St. Joe County, right?
you might get it on the head.
Because I know everybody down there.
Yeah, I'm really.
That's true. She said,
Wow.
so are you done yet? With everything?
Maybe.
Sweet, so I got, hey, Rod.
How you doing, sir?
We need you on the cemetery board.
Is because everything else I just.
Rod, like, you saw what I went through out there, right?
Well, this is on here.
Well, they need the two songs from 1901 and everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, no. Old man Basil had him run around like a chick with her head cut off.
This isn't working, so I can't put it up
Yeah, they had all these, people from the Civil War, just all these two.
Like, he held it out, but I'll-
What's her face?
I saw that, yeah.
Okay, they had water pouring in the front office. You know what they did? They put a piece of fabric over it.
My mom and dad, no.
Roger.
I'm thinking about it. Kim told me to leave her.
She might tell you this, I'm kind of. I got very much for people. Already tried. He was nice.
Wow.
Hey, Sherry, how are you?
That's so fake.
Well, I was looking to see, no. I saw that stick behind you, I just didn't know if that was your cane.
You know it's fake. Hi, Sharon. How are you?
All right.
Good job with the celebrations that you guys did over there.
Oh, it was awesome, it was just incredible. I tried the city manager to be over there.
Yes.
Mhm.
Did you
Represent the city.
The mayor wasn't there?
Mayor wasn't there, nobody was there. Steve Jones was there, but he don't represent. No, he left. I asked him to stay, he left. I said, will you represent the city? He walked out, as soon as I asked him. Yo. As soon as I asked him to represent the city, he just walked out. Didn't come back. I was like, okay.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I'm sorry, I'm late, guys.
Oh, I'm sorry, we can call this meeting to order. I totally lost track of time.
Thank you.
Like you said. You gotta remind me, it's 5:30, I don't start late meetings, you know that? I'm sorry, I was just lost track of time. All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. First, order of business is board appointments, Mr. Lang. to the Downtown Development Authority. Do you have any
Yes, ma'am.
comments or anything that you'd like to, statements you'd like to make prior to?
No, other than, I'd, very much like to serve on the board. I mean, I've been coming to the meetings, recently, and I've noticed that, there's boards that are going with empty slots and what have you. I'm now a business owner, downtown, so, I've built it, since I'm a longtime resident. I have my business here now. What better way could I serve other than on the DDA?
Thank you, sir. Any questions you'd like to ask Mr. Lawrence?
How you doing, Mr. Lyon?
Good, and you?
So you own your own business?
Yes, sir.
Right here in downtown?
Yes, sir.
It's good.
I'm licensed, well, with the state, I'm licensed as a private investigator as well as licensed, security agent.
Okay. Now, so you already attend the meetings already?
Yes.
Do you?
Well, no, I attend the commission meeting.
Oh, the commission?
Right, I haven't been to any of the committee meetings or anything like that. Well, a couple of committee meetings I've been to.
And I think the downtown authority meet on Wednesdays,
At
11:30, I think,
Third Wednesday.
third Wednesday.
Well,
I'm sure you can.
Being that I own my own business and, yeah, I think I can, allow myself to, be free to go to the meeting.
I think you'll be a good asset to the downtown authority.
Thank you, sir.
A couple more members on there. Rich Hensel, I think, is on downtown authority.
Okay.
I don't have any other questions for you. Thank you for serving. We appreciate it, and we'll move this item to the full commission for our next meeting. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next order of business is the discussion on the leak policy. This is great. Thank you. Mr. Manager, because we talked about
Turn
this.
it over to the expert.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I'm sorry, Ms. Jenkins.
Okay, good evening. Currently working on updating the leak policy. We know we have some bits of it together, but we do have a dispute form that customers can fill out. They have a problem with leaks, a problem with their bill. And some adjustments are given if the leaks are valid. Especially if, they have something running or leaking and they don't go through the sanitary system, then those leaks are valid for adjustments according to the average usage.
But the thing you said updated, is that written out? So is there a
Yeah,
25%?
there is several policies back in, I would say 2008, 9, 10. Maybe they came up with this utility service policy and procedure form that did some things with disputes, payment arrangements, adjustments, whatever. So it's just come tweaking from some of that because some of it is obsolete now because we got a new billing system. They change out the meters, so it's better detected to do things. So it just had to be tweaked to specify and get it pinpointed on the leaks specifically.
So if someone shows up and they say, well, I have some discrepancy in my bill and I'm being charged more, or I don't think I have a leak, and then they check it out, they have a leak and it's proven something else. What do you give them? Do you hand them anything, or is just a verbal thing that you
Okay, so
discuss
during the
with them?
billing process, we have a meter reader that reads the routes. Sometimes the reads come back as one that say, for instance, your address. If usage, the read come back and the usage is higher than normal, what billing does do then is we create work orders to tag the customer. They give it as a courtesy to let them know, you have high usage. We do it as a courtesy, let you know you may have a problem, you might want to get it checked out. Normally it works then, they'll find out what's going on. And if they don't find anything, we then send someone out to check and make sure the meter is working properly. Or if they do discover something, they can let the customer know what it is and they can get it completed. For instance, somebody had a hot water tank that was running. Of course, they didn't know it was running, so that caused water use to increase. So once they got a repair, required them to make repairs, bring in proof that it was repaired, receipts and everything, they can fill out this form, and then they can get a one-time adjustment which would only go for the sewer only because they did not go through the sanitary system.
So what is that amount? Is there a percentage? Is it a,
It basically on an average of what they normally use, and you can do an average of 3 to 5 months.
okay.
If we find something faulty with our equipment, then we change it out. And then, say 2 or 3 months, get an average of it and make an adjustments according to that.
Further, in answer to your question, is there something in writing
Is there, yeah, that you can hand to a customer?
that you can hand to a customer? It is being, she said, there are many processes now, we're trying to get them down to one, so we can hand them to the customer.
Because right now, the only form I can't hand them out is the dispute form.
So,
Yeah, so once I get that policy tweaked together, then we find out what qualifies as a leak, what can be done, and then know.
so for next month's meeting, I'm sorry, can we have a policy in hand by, our next meeting, which will be October, what, the first of, yeah, whatever our
As
next
soon as I'm done
meeting
with
is.
it, I plan on submitting
What I'm
it
saying,
to the
we
city manager.
need one by the beginning of the month, so we can have this to give to people, because, you know,
Yes.
some of us, we need a policy in hand by the first week of October, by this next meeting.
So you want it on the
A
agenda?
policy in hand, yes, so we can send it to the full commission at our, in that meeting. Any other questions?
One question, Mr. Jenkins, with the leak policy, what is the most average you have leaks in the winter or in the summer? Do it vary?
It varies.
Vary.
A lot of them come in the winter, you know, because some people,
Freeze?
some people don't like a lot of heat. If it's not heating that, we have busted pipes, anything can freeze and burst. You know, especially with the winters we get. So it happens again, but the summer usage, you have to be careful with it because, you know, a lot of people water,
Yeah.
they pool or drain the water or whatever, so you have to be careful with it.
You may have said this, but I understand when the bill comes, it's the red flag, but is the citizen, are they responsible for after they get that high bill to find a plumber or find someone to come in, or can they call the city to come in and inspect to find out if there is a leak?
The only thing that we're responsible for is the meter itself.
Okay.
So either if they're a homeowner, then they're responsible to get it done. If they are renting, they need to contact the landlord.
Okay. Who does the city work with for plumbing needs? Is there a contractor or somebody that we work with our plumbing with?
And I know not for customers' water.
No, not for customers, I'm just saying, is there somebody that the city deals with for city water? But the reason I'm asking, because some people may not know, do we make recommendations or that kind of thing to help citizens out, or?
And the thing about it, we can't make a recommendation, we can give them 2 or 3 people
Right,
if we
right.
know
We
who
know
they
those
are.
people, okay.
I think that would be actually very helpful if there was just like a list, because some people may not know, who to call.
We can add them on, it doesn't matter who, and then let them choose from that, because it's just another way to make citizens' lives a little easier when they're doing.
Probably that information is from the inspections department.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, the chair. Let me see, I'm sorry, I came in a little late. Let me see that I hear this right, that if the citizens have a complaint or concern about their water, we're going to set up a policy soon. Am I hearing that
So
correct? That will help whatever problem is.
So we can hand them something in their hands, so they'll know these are the steps that they need to follow. This is what the policy is, and these are the steps that they need to follow.
So is it because we're on a skeleton crew with public work, with our public works? Because from my understanding that they've been checking the meter, checking for leaks as well over the years. Now, is that not the policy that we're gonna change that now?
I'm not sure what.
As she was explaining before you came in, there are a number of policies that have been in place. And now what we're doing, and that's even through the emergency manager and all, we are taking those policies to consolidate them into one policy. And we'll have it back to this committee at the next meeting next month.
Okay, I got it now. Well, I'll just encourage us to take into consideration, who's responsible from the center of the road to 18 inches into the house. I'll, ask us to make sure that we take that in consideration when we make this policy.
Are there any other questions about this? So just to make sure that we get everything, so can we have a list of plumbers as well added to that they can actually utilize? And we can put them all on there, that'll make it a little easier for them. In policy, but it also includes the steps of what they need to do once they discover a leak. So policy and then the steps that they need to follow, so people know exactly what they need to do. And the reason why it's urgent to me is because exactly the reason that you stated is getting ready to be winter time, and that's where we run into a lot of these issues in the winter time with leaks. So that's why it's urgent. Thank you.
I just want to add one more thing. When they said, run your water 5 minutes before you drink it or use it to cook with. Is there a consideration in 5 minutes of running your water? It used to be that when we were in the freeze season, everybody ran their water and there was some consideration. So I don't know if I'm just being an advocate.
Yeah, thank you. I guess, fine, you're supposed to, you want to answer that? Okay.
I do know that during the winter months, especially when it get below freezing, we do have customers, especially in certain areas, because they're in a place, because the mains are not as deep as others.
Okay.
They are told to run water like over in your area because it's shallow,
Okay.
so it won't freeze up. But as far as going on running the water before you use it with this, with the lead testing, I have no idea about no consideration about that.
And this discussion is about leaks and that kind of thing. So my other question to you, there are areas, like you said,
They have shallow mains,
right,
like over by the high school, Hastings areas, over there, up here on Jefferson Hill, some areas, those are shallow.
so they know.
They're known to freeze.
I'm saying, do the customers, are they
Yeah,
aware?
that area, they're full aware of, especially there, they know to do it every year.
I'm saying, have they been told as a notice going out, remember, like a reminder, reminding
Yeah,
them?
because,
I didn't know that.
but over there, press releases, all of that, especially during that time, when we know we're having bad weather, and that's when we send it out, freeze warning.
Okay. Thank you so much. Are there any other questions from the audience about this particular item before we move on? Pam? Nope. All right, next item, we'll move, bring this back for next month. Thank you. The next item, reinstatement of the water review advisory committee.
Okay, that goes along basically what I've said before, because that was established around, let's say, 2008 to 2010. And that committee was formed to, it consists of staff members, 2 citizens from each municipalities. At that time, we served in Township, St. Joe Township. So they set over as citizens to hear whatever the issues was going on. But it was late 2009 or 10, it was kind of dissolved when it came over to policies and procedures. And then in 2012, when we got the new system and we had started the meter change out program, there was no need for that, because now with the new system, the meter reader, when you go out and read, you can also retrieve downloads, the history of whatever's going on at that particular house. Or we can do a history of that and get an average of what they're doing and how they're using it and address it there. So basically, we can handle it in-house before it gets too heavy and make a decision on whatever it is could be going on. It could be faulty equipment, it could be any number of things, and whatever it is, we get that figured out then.
So my question is, so in 2009 and 10 and before, what issues exactly did because I know you said a lot of things about what it addressed that couldn't do now then, but can do now because of the new meters and all that.
New meter system, because we had census meters at first, or Rockwell's, which go to wires. So a lot of customers, and not all did it, some of the wires are damaged, we couldn't read them, so they estimate. By the time we get in to get them repaired, they may get a credit or they may have higher usage. Because if you only estimate a customer on an average of what they use, so it's a possibility they can use more or they can use less. But we are ordered to, by the ordinance, that we must send a bill out, whether it's actually on estimate. So that's why we decided to change out the meters that you need all the problems of doing that, because some customers actually believe if we couldn't read the meter, then we really couldn't bill them or know what they was using, which was more harmful for them than it was helpful. So then some of them have animals, they chew through the wires or whatever, so it's just better to do that way. And with those, they had to be calibrated so often, so they actually wouldn't read correctly, some of them, and that's why we went to the new system and started changing them out. Because now these meters read high and low flow.
If I could add for clarity, this committee was actually established in 1994 and was found to order for it. And then it was abolished by E.M. Tony Saunders in 2013. Yeah, so it's been around for a long time.
So how often was the review board used? Do you know, was it used quite a bit?
Whenever
disputes or?
if there was a customer complaint, it couldn't be resolved right then in the office, and they requested to see somebody else. And that's when we had to contact all the committee meetings to get a meeting. Sometimes it wasn't feasible to just meet for one customer, because you could have more than one. Sometimes it'd be 2 or 3.
And I would venture to say that the emergency manager didn't want to answer to the customer, so they set up a board to do it. The city manager will answer to the customer.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I don't know, and I guess this board needs to chime in, but because we are listening to the customers, and just things will be different. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Okay. Mr. Eisen, do you have any?
If I can add one thing, the other thing is with the committee, not only, I'm not sure if that was the case, but I actually had to take time to even train or teach them how to read the information that they was receiving from the complaints. So that was a little extra work, and if they really didn't understand it. Right now, I have to take time, because the histories that we print out, it takes some time to understand how to read them.
How many complaints have we received with under the new system?
High usage, or what?
No, I'm just saying, how many complaints, period, about their water in terms of high usage, low usage, leakage? How many complaints have we received where you needed the city manager or someone to make a decision on somebody's bill? If they had some discrepancies, how often have we used or needed some additional counseling with a water complaint or dispute?
Let me see, the last month or so, I think I had one.
So it's been low. I guess that's what I'm trying to find out. How often? Just one. Okay.
And we have one coming up now. So there's 2 in a whole month.
Yeah, and for the year. So to this point, it's been pretty low. Okay.
Madam Chair, when a community is disfranchised and disrespected over a period of time and never get any response or anything positive, they stop showing up. So I wouldn't take that 1 and 2 as but we know for a fact that a lot of people did not get their concerns answered because they came right here to this spot and complained about it. And we saw it over and over and over. So I wouldn't take those numbers as actual data. I would say if we have a policy in place that gives the citizens the opportunity to be heard, but I do know for a fact that policing themselves hasn't worked, and I don't think that anything else works. If you come to me about me, it's gonna work in my favor. So whatever we do, we have to give the citizens a place to feel empowered, because it hasn't happened for us, and it's been a long time that we've been disenfranchised. So I don't know if we're leaning not to have this committee.
So I guess what I'm saying is, and the reason why this is on this agenda, because we felt that, I especially felt it was important, is because the systems hasn't been tight. If a person, you can't hand somebody something saying, this is the process, and these are the steps that you follow, if that has never been done, then you're right, it's not a sound policy, people are not heard. But if we're trying out a new system, and this is what we're trying out, so if that does not work, then we can institute a review board, but hopefully with a new policy, new steps to follow, and a city manager with a listening ear, that'll change. So we don't need to recreate the wheel if we got a solid system that works. And that's the problem, the system wasn't solid. So if you got systems and processes that work, people are satisfied. And I think that'll happen with this.
Okay.
That's the hope.
Trust the process.
Yep, trust the process. They work if they're in place. They do work. Are there any other questions or concerns about this particular item? All right. Next item, volunteer policy. And this was one that came about, we were talking about having people come in, because I met a young man over the weekend in Detroit that was going to Western Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And he's getting a degree in finance. And I was like, so when you finish, what do you plan on doing? But he was already offered a job someplace down south when he finished. But if we got those young people coming into our communities and interning and learning city finance and that kind of thing, we can hopefully retain some of that type of talent. City manager.
I hope to have a report to you at your next meeting. I have the material that the commissioner gave me, and I am gonna sit down with staff and we'll work through it.
And also just regular volunteers who want to come in, because people were told that they would be, if they got hurt, the city would be responsible. You can eliminate that with them signing off on liability. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Some time ago, in committee, we asked the city manager to reach out to the colleges, and at that time we said the historical black colleges, but then in more conversation we said local colleges for sure, because we can get them closer to home. But we asked them to do a form letter and reach out to these colleges and to see if we can get an intern or get a volunteer to do some catch some of the things that are not happening because we're on a skeleton crew.
Right.
So if we could do that, that would just spread our wish list out to a lot of educated and qualified people.
So my question is, for the volunteer program, does it have to be someone in college? I'm asking specifically because you had mentioned finance. Like, for example, I have an MBA with a finance focus, but I've never done like city finance. I would love to learn, but I'm not, young or in college.
No, and I'm sorry. I was just making, you have people who want to volunteer. And that's the city manager. That's a great question for the city manager. somebody
be
wanted to
interesting.
just, I know he probably can't expose you to certain things.
Yeah,
Because
and
of,
I'm also busy.
yeah,
I wouldn't have like 40 hours, but I could designate time
To learn.
to learn, yeah.
The city manager has a question for you.
We'll look into it.
But I know people have wanted to volunteer and they've been told because, they couldn't just regular volunteers who wanted to do things in the city. And they were told that they could not.
Well,
I've heard that on several-
ask the clerk, how did she get her person to help? What, did you go through an agency? You got a person down in your office that comes in, a senior, comes in and help you every once in a while?
Not anymore. She was, helping me with medical marijuana applications, making copies, but she's a poll worker. She just came in to help me out,
Oh, she was a poll worker just to help you out?
just to make copies.
Oh, okay. Well, that was a big help. So when we get somebody that's qualified that understands something, if it is nothing but to understand the regs of HUD and all the other things, we need to do that.
If people show interest, if there's something that can be done, there's not any opposition to that.
I wouldn't have any opposition to
You
it.
know what I'm saying? There isn't any opposition already to it. If people have interest in things, they come forward and say they have an interest in it, and something. Sure.
We have like a volunteer list or something that people know.
Yeah, but that's what he's saying. He's working on a volunteer policy, because there are some liabilities that can occur for people coming in and volunteering, doing things. If they get hurt, the city will be liable for that because it's our property. So there are some things that we need to make sure that the city is not liable with volunteers coming in. I work at a school, so there is a volunteer policy. They have to go through a background check. It's a whole list of things. Like, why do I want to volunteer? But that's just the process. So there are some things that we have to make sure are in place before we can just say, come on in and do it. Yeah. You have another question?
No, I'm good, I'm sorry, I'm just not moving, I'm just.
Oh,
gonna stay right here.
okay. All right.
I see what's next on
I
my
have something, since you guys that to laugh about this. When we have qualified people, say you're not as qualified as you think you are, but you are, and you should fit into the program easily without even going any further with that discussion. But there's a lot of people, that volunteer thing, that's somebody over in St. Joe's idea. We don't need to be volunteering. We can volunteer. It's great to be a volunteer. That's what I do all day, every day, volunteer. But discussions ought to be on some jobs or some stipends or something to help you. Other people. I don't want a buttermilk and no sausage at the same time. I want us to have some jobs, and somebody, if there's nobody but me, will be crying about them. Some stipends, because there's a lot of youngsters where we'll do the work. I can give a little youngster I cut, he rate, and I can give him $7, $8. I can give him 10 if he do it right. Organize some jobs and pretty much just work the volunteers as well as you can, but we gotta be serious about our people and some jobs, and it's gonna get cold, and they cut food stamps, they cut people off of aid and everything. It's nice to be real nice about things, but when things, and it's gonna get real cold, and you be wondering what happened to your car, your personal items. So the laughing and trying to make this buttermilk is well and good, and I understand it. I love the power it gives you giving, but we got to do more our people need stipends. We don't need to be working for free for nothing. We give our time, we'll give our effort, we'll do all of that. If you ask us, we'll do it. But if you ain't talking about no stipends, never, if you're not talking about K5 or whatever that stuff is in the air, you ain't talking about something serious, that's what the citizens need. And I hope you feel me.
So we'll have something with this policy, Mr. Say that. Okay.
Is it for next month? Put it back on the agenda for next month? Okay.
So we'll have something to look at. The last item on our agenda is the ordinance amendment, chapter 28.
To that, Mr. Mitchell and I were talking about this today, and it's rather simple. In 2017, I want to say, the committee requested for the extension of Gene Clark Park to October 31st, and it never went before the city commission for approval. So we're just trying to see if that is still your will, to extend it to October 31st or keep it at September 30th.
Yeah, we need to extend that because it's not, the weather doesn't change. Yeah.
That's with the booth still being open.
What are those dates again? I'm sorry.
So right now, as it stands in the ordinance, Jane Clark Park is open May 1st through September 30th. And we are trying to see if if the committee and commission still wants it to extend to October 31st.
And that's weather permitting.
Yeah.
Oh, of course. But somebody in the booth making the money. Yeah, sounds good. Extend it to further than that if you have to.
You have a
Make that
question or anything, Commissioner Harris? Does anybody have any questions or comments about that particular item? All right, we vote to move this one.
So it's an ordinance to move.
Yeah, to
Ordinance
move
amendment.
the ordinance, yeah. Before we leave, is there any other questions or comments that we can answer or?
I'd like
Concerns
to
that you have
ask the
before we leave?
honorable chair if we could put 5G legislation on the committee. Found out that Chicago is in court right now. Another municipality in Wisconsin is also going to court. So I want to bring the one that I know have already went to court and what their stance were, so we can, to be truthful with you, Chair, I'm not confident that our attorney can do anything that we asked them to do, since his concubines or whatever it was is gone. So I'm not sure if we can get our people to do it, but I still want to bring it to our attention. If it is happening, other municipalities are working on it, and if we decide that as a body to ask our firm to do it, then they should follow up on it.
At the public safety meeting, it was given to me to do research on 5G, to highlight exactly what it is, and then the negative benefits that you're talking about. And I have gotten some information on what it does, but I don't have information yet on what the problems are. And I wanted to have those together before I send those to you. That makes sense?
It makes sense, but you're late. This has been information that's been out for a long time. It's very critical that we handle our business for our people. And so that's why I'm asking to put it on the agenda. This is a can that needs to be kicked.
It was on the last, so it came from my committee. We went to public safety last month and
it was
we had
a joke.
information.
It was a joke
Actually, it was
in committee, and they asked him to do it. knowing that he's gotta take time out to do it. And we're not at that point now. We're at a point that we need to start making some movement. So we wanna bring all the information together. That's why I wanna,
And that's what he's doing.
well, he's bringing pros and cons together from what I'm hearing. I want to bring through legislative committee a legal perspective.
So do you have a document? Do you?
I have the document. I got it off a line. All of this stuff is public information.
Yeah, it is, and I hear you, and I have been reading about what 5G is, because we already have 4G, and it is the placement of those cell towers closer together, so it speeds up your wireless access. That's what 5G is. It is the placement of those cell towers in places that they're close enough that it speeds up your connections. That's what 5G is. We already have 5G. I have an iPhone, so 4G, and so it's already going at a fast rate. They're placing them closer together. They get a better, reception with them closer together. That's what it is. So we doing that. So if you have a proposal or something, send it to the city manager so that he can get that going. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't help us to have another discussion about it if you're saying this is what we want.
It does, because some of us don't have all the information. And I guarantee you, if it unfolds and you get as much information, you will be excited and ready to stop it too. But it takes it takes you to know what's going on. We can't get all of us together unless we are together. So that's the reason why we're kicking it down the road every chance we get. Because every time we have a discussion, somebody light bulb lights up and think, oh, maybe this is something that we really need to be concerned about. So yes, that's the way you do it. So kick the can down the road until all of us, at least 5 of us, say there's a concern and it needs to be fixed.
So if you want to bring it before this committee, what I'm suggesting is you send the document that you found from the court to the city manager, and I will put it on my agenda.
I will.
Other than that, I'm not having another discussion. I will support something that you said.
I will.
That's what I'm saying.
I will.
That's how I roll.
Great. I'm rolling that away too. Rolling down the same path.
Absolutely.
All power to the people.
Are there any other questions or concerns before we end this meeting? Questions, concerns about anything at this point?
Can I ask one thing? I like, since we have a commissioner up here that shares information and wants to give information to our new city manager, I would like through the chair to make a request that we can have some discussion and have Mr. Isom give more information to the city manager about my river problem. And all of you guys know my problem about it, so I shouldn't have to bother your meeting with trying to give him all the details now, because you guys already know. And you know it's something that is very close to my heart. And a lot of other citizens in Benton Harbor, where they actually just gave up the whole thrill and thought of even fishing. And that concerns me more than any of it. But to have Mr. Isom spearhead that with the city manager and get us some buoys like we had promised the citizens.
So city manager, give you some background
Well,
on this issue. There were supposed to
We
be,
can,
you know,
they can decide some
there was supposed to be
buoys.
some buoys put in. Former city manager was supposed to take care of some of those things with, there was a joint venture that was supposed to happen. I don't think it got, even Jim
And it's a
Park
long
was
story
supposed to
to
have,
that.
those buoys placed out there. And that was a discussion we had almost 2 years ago, because I brought it up, that, so swimmers will know, how far to go out. Should have been flag warnings when there's a no swim, all of those kind of safety issues and concerns that should have been, that we had, that never got taken care of. And it was, when I was out there this summer, spent time, they were not there again. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. So, thank you.
I'll get with the commissioner.
Yeah, one last thing. There's nobody swimming in the river.
Yeah, we talked, she was just saying.
Okay, I just want a good understanding. This is all about fishing. It is not about no swimming. It's about the citizens being able to fish freely. And we have the right by law to do that along with the boats, and they have to respect us like we have to respect them. And that's what it's all about. It's nothing about anything else.
I thought that was all part of the no wait.
Yeah, the no wake zone, yeah, there were supposed to be buoys put out for that. Yeah, so we haven't forgotten, it was just never followed through. So it wasn't us,
City
it was,
managers really don't want him to be in, but we can be ready by summer. That's all that I would love to see.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. I'll put some sausage biscuits.
Yeah, put some.
All right.
Put some out of the circuit with that.
that being said, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Out of the circuit.
Be careful how
I
much
love my people.
salmon and
I love my
candy,
people. I
because the
love-
GMO